Hey, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Jay Moore here, the Healthy Accountant. And I want to welcome you to today's Enlightenment. If you are listening on Facebook or YouTube, and it is, after the morning, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Guys, today the title of the broadcast is Leader Has Fear, Followers Have No Chance. If the leader has fear, the followers have no chance. So, guys, thanks again for joining. And this week, what we're talking about is how to take down lions, bears, even giants. Pretty much a story about David. David, from the time he was anointed to the time that he actually took down Goliath. Hey, good morning, Regina. Thanks for joining. And so we're talking about that. And so this particular portion of this week talking about fear, and I want to just kind of take you over to 1 Samuel chapter 17. I'm reading out of the clear word, and it says in verse 11, Saul was the only man in Israel who even came close to Goliath's stature. Among his own people, he too was a giant of a man and had a bronze helmet and a bronze battle vest. But when Saul and his men saw Goliath, they were afraid of him and lost their courage. If the leader has fear, followers have no chance. And here it is. Saul's the leader of the army. He's the leader of the nation. He's a big man. He's a giant himself amongst his followers. And here it is. It's coming down to the battle. Goliath comes out and Saul is scared. Immediately, what happened? Everyone else got scared. Everyone else who would normally be ready to fight with Saul, they didn't want to fight because they saw what happened to Saul. They saw that, wow, if Goliath has put fear in his heart, then what chance do I have? And that's absolutely true. And a lot of times we go through our life and we're with people and we take on the characteristics of those that are around us. If someone has fear about something and you're around them long enough, you'll have the same fear. If someone is strong about something and you're around them long enough, you will begin to be strong. So, the old saying of, you're the, you're basically, the five people that you hang around. And, a lot of that is true, but a lot of that is true. How would a person in a circumstance like that change? How would they do it? See, you got to change yourself. And a lot of times we don't always want to change ourselves. We don't want to put ourselves through the fire. We don't want to put ourselves through something that's going to make us more uncomfortable. A lot of times we'll just kind of stay with the status quo. But think about it. If Saul had fear and he was the strongest man in Israel, what happens to a whole nation if that was the outcome? What would have happened if there wasn't a David? Now, we're going to talk about what David did and how David was so strong. How David, even though his stature was small, how he was the strongest man of that time. We're going to talk about, that over the next few days. But see, fear is something that I believe is it's really having its way with most people today. Fear is the thing that people are noticing. They're watching news programs, and the news programs is putting fear in you. They are among groups that maybe are saying things about themselves that if I were to say a bad thing about you, you would get upset. But if you said the bad thing about you, then you just keep saying it. I've seen this happen. People say things about themselves that if someone else said it to them, they would fight. But a lot of that has to do with what we're walking around with, and we're walking around with fear. But if the leadership of this country is not going to lead us in a way that we want to be led, then we'll just kind of go the way that he's going. If the leadership of our church is not going to lead us the way that we want to be led, they're going to lead us the way that they're going, which is in a fearful way. I've seen this in so many areas of life. I see it in business, where I'll speak to a business person. I'll be asking them about their business. What are they doing? How are they doing it? And then I just come to find out that they came up against the fear. They came up against something that they would not address in themselves. And then they just stopped. I had a chance to look at my own business and look at my own life, right? Because hey, man, if I'm talking, I should be looking at myself. And I looked at my business over the past 6 years, and modest growth, right? Modest growth. Lost my biggest client earlier this year, which could have had a devastating effect, but it didn't. It actually didn't. It actually grew, even though I lost my biggest client, but it was fine. And so I looked at it, and I was looking at it because of the fact that a lot of times, as individuals, we don't always look at our growth curve. We don't always look at, okay, where was I at when I was 24? Where was I at when I was 30? Where was I at when I was 35? Now that, hey, I'm 47 now. Like, where am I at today, and where am I going? And when I looked at it, I said, okay, modest. I've been having modest growth over the past 6 years. Not the growth that I would have wanted. I want more. But then I had to say to myself, well, okay, if it's only modest and not exponential, then what is it that's been holding me up? Guys, I'm gonna tell you, look, I can't say that I'm walking around with a bunch of fear, right? But if I had to look at that and point out anything, there was fear in some of those years. There was fear of something. Maybe it was fear of addressing, something that I was afraid to do, because I did learn that there were some things I was afraid to do early on. And I said, wow, there was a fear. Why did I have that fear? What was I doing, or who was I listening to is the other question. Who was I around that might have had fears, that did not address things in their life? And I'm gonna tell you, what I learned was sobering. It's humbling. It's humbling to know that, look, a lot of times, guys, fear is that thing that it just takes people out. And we can't allow fear. You can't allow fear to do anything except motivate you. If you find that you have a fear at anything, step up. Say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. If you find that, you're uncomfortable in a situation that you should do, step up and do it. And that's what I learned. I learned that I was dealing with some fears of my own. And it wasn't because, it wasn't that I was following a bad leader or anything like that, because I was following myself. But I just looked around and said, okay, well, who was I hanging around in those years? What were they doing? How were they operating? And what I found is that they weren't doing. They weren't, what rubbed off on me was what they were doing and what they had. So you could be a follower and not even realize that you're following somebody. You could be a leader right now, leading somebody, and not realize that the things that you're fearing is causing someone else not to grow. This is how critical this is today, for you to understand that if anyone has fear, I say a leader, right? Because that's what we're talking about, Saul. But if you have fear, you're leading somebody. Somebody's coming into your life, and they are going to see that you're fearful, even if you didn't tell them. They're going to feel it. They're going to know it. And then maybe that's going to rub off on them. Wow. And if that rubs off on them, then what's going to happen to them later? What's going to happen to them in 3, 4, 5, 6 years? So look, today, everyone that has a chance to listen to this broadcast, look, we're all leaders. We are all leaders in our own right. We're all followers in our own right. So if we're a leader and a follower at the same time, then we've got to step up. We've got to step up to be great in everything that we do. Hey, what's up, Brian? Man, I got to get with you, bro. We've got to step up. We have to step up because look, guys, it's nothing like having a fear. But if that fear is not healthy, if that fear is actually stopping you from doing something, then that's the problem. See, I have a healthy fear every single morning. Every single morning, I sit in front of my computer. This is one of the first things I do, you know. And I'm gonna tell you, I have a healthy fear every morning. Like, man, should I do it? Should I do it again? Oh man, is it gonna come out okay? Man, do I really have something to say? Every morning, I step up to a fear. I start off my day with a win because I have to go into fear. And so look, fear is healthy when you understand that you can do something. You can do something today that you're uncomfortable in, but then when you keep doing it over and over, the next thing you know, you just got to keep stepping up. It's like for me, I've been doing this for now. I started this last year. And then I stepped up from doing audio to now doing video. You know, I didn't always plan out what I was going to talk about. Now I've been planning out what I'm going to talk about. You know, the next phase is probably something, it's going to be bigger. It's going to be much bigger. You know, so every level, and that's something else I learned from one of my mentors just recently. He said, see, every time you do something, you got to go up to another level. And he used, you know, different anecdotes or people's lives. You know, he talked about Muggsy Bogues. If you're familiar with basketball, Muggsy Bogues, 5'3", the smallest player that ever played in the NBA. 5'3", played 14 years. Played 14 years successful. You know what I'm saying? 14 years successfully in the NBA. And as he used Muggsy as an anecdote, he said Muggsy was an overachiever, right? But the thing is, Muggsy Bogues could not get to the level of Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal, 7'1", 300 pounds, or maybe 320. You know what I'm saying? That's right. Went to Dunbar in Baltimore, Maryland. You know, wherein Shaquille O'Neal should be the greatest player of all time. But Shaquille O'Neal did not go over and above. He was an achiever, but he was not an overachiever. See, we all have ceilings at some point. Muggsy could not do what Shaq did. But Shaq did not overachieve. Shaq went to one level, but had he really practiced, had he really taken care of his body, you think Shaq could have averaged 40 a game. So guys, we've all got to introspect. We've all got to look at our lives, and we all got to address, you know, in a helpful way, what fear really is. Fear is an indication that you should do something in most cases, especially if you know that it's positive. Now, if it's negative, then you shouldn't do it. But if it's a positive thing, you should do it. So guys, remember this today as you're going throughout your day. And the text we used today was 1 Samuel chapter 17 and verse 11, where Saul, Saul is a huge man, was afraid. His whole army became afraid, and they were basically, no one would fight Goliath. So if the leader has fear, followers have no chance. Be the leader and the follower that you would be. Be the leader and the follower that you would be today if you knew that someone was watching, and if you knew that your actions is going to affect another person's life. Definitely be that leader today. Be that follower today so that you can get out there and do some great things and amazing things in your life. Guys, I appreciate you for joining me today. And today's Enlightenment, leader has fear, followers have no chance, where we're talking about, you know, taking down lions and bears, even giants in your life. The story of David and how David overachieved. And we're going to talk about David. We didn't talk much about David today, but we're definitely going to talk about David for the rest of the week. So join me tomorrow as we talk about, I think tomorrow is tools of the trade. No, I'm sorry. Tomorrow is even boxers have tune-up fights. That's tomorrow. Friday is going to be tools of the trade. And then on Saturday, we're going to close it out with one man with courage is all it takes. So guys, I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow, bright and early. God bless you. Take care.